of just gleaming white stone cascading down a mountain filled with this electric turquoise water.
It looked like a cloud just sort of landed on the hillside.
Exactly. It is absolute paradise. But then you walk just a few hundred meters up the hill and you find yourself standing in front of a cave. A cave the ancient world was absolutely terrified of.
And not without good reason. I mean, if a bird flew too close to this specific spot, it would just drop dead, midair.
A bull walks in, collapses instantly.
But, and this is the key part, the local priest could walk right in, do a little spin, and walk out completely unharmed.
Which, you know, if you're an average person in 200 BC, that looks like the ultimate proof of divine power.
Absolutely.
Today, we are deep diving into the UNESCO World Heritage Site in Turkey that is both of these things. Pamukkale, the Cotton Castle, and the ancient city built right on top of it, Hierapolis.
And it is such a fascinating intersection of, well, geology, mythology, and honestly, that very human need to find a cure for what ails us.
We have a really interesting stack of sources for this one. We've got a great BBC travel feature on geological mysteries, some transcripts from travel vlogs.
I think Sefet Emre Tungus was one of them.
Yes, exactly. And some historical architectural reports and a really dense but fascinating academic study on something they call visitor carrying capacity.
That last one is so crucial. It's basically the science of how we might be loving these ancient places to death.
You will definitely get to that. But our mission today is to, well, decode the science behind that magic underworld gate, explore the irony of a healing city that wound up with one of the biggest graveyards in antiquity.
Then look at how this site is handling the millions of feet that are, stomping all over it today.
So let's start with a visual. If you've never even seen a picture of Pamukkale, what are we looking at?
Well, the name's the best place to start. In Turkish, Pamukkale literally means cotton castle.
And it really does look like that.
It's exactly what it looks like. Yeah. From a distance, you'd think it was snow or, just huge piles of cotton balls.
But it's hard as a rock.
Right. It's a rock called travertine. And this is a geological process that's been happening for something like 400,000 years.
Wow.
You have these thermal springs bubbling up from deep underground, about 35 degrees Celsius, and they're super saturated with calcium carbonate.
Okay, pause there. For the non-geologists among us, calcium carbonate is what? Like chalk. Limestone.
Basically, yeah. The best analogy is a tea kettle. You know how if you have hard water, you get that white, crusty buildup inside?
Scale.
Exactly. Now just imagine that on a massive geological scale. The hot water comes up, it flows over the edge of this plateau.
Yeah.
And as it cools and degasses,
The calcium just kind of drops out of it.
it precipitates out. It starts as a soft gel, and then it hardens into this brilliant white limestone.
Creating all these natural infinity pools.
Thousands of them. The BBC source notes the cliffs are almost 3 kilometers long and about 160 meters high. I mean, it's just magnificent.
There are other places like this, right?
Oh, sure. You've got Huanglong in China or Mammoth Hot Springs in Yellowstone. But Pamukkale is, well, it's arguably the most spectacular example in the world.
It's beautiful. But here's the catch. The only reason this cotton castle even exists is because the whole area is sitting on top of, what, a loaded gun?
That's a dramatic way to put it. Yeah, pretty much. The Pamukkale fault line, it's a 35-kilometer active tectonic zone. The Earth here is literally tearing itself apart.
And that's what lets the hot water escape.
Right. And that's the central theme here, really. The same geological flaw that gives you the beautiful white paradise also creates the terrifying gate to hell.
You can't have one without the other.
It's a package deal.
So let's talk about this gate. The ancients called it the Plutonium.
After Pluto, the god of the underworld.
And I was reading the accounts from Strabo and Pliny the Elder. These were serious historians, not fantasy writers. And they were genuinely freaked out by this place.
They describe a small cave opening, fenced off, with this thick, hazy vapor inside that you couldn't see through.
Strabo actually wrote, and I'm quoting here, "I threw in sparrows and they immediately breathed their last and fell." He was like testing the perimeter.
It became a huge spectator sport. People would travel from all over the Roman Empire to watch the priests perform. They'd lead a perfectly healthy bull to the mouth of the cave.
The bull goes in.
It struggles for a moment and then just drops dead. Stone dead.
But the priest is standing right there and he's totally fine.
He might be holding his breath. Maybe it looks a little strained, but he's alive.
So if you're a pilgrim in 100 AD, there is only one possible explanation. That priest has the favor of the gods.
And that cave is breathing the breath of Cerberus, the hellhound. It's a perfectly logical conclusion, given the evidence they had.
But we have slightly better evidence now.
We have modern instruments.
Duh.
Enter a guy named Hardy Fans. He's a volcanobiologist from that BBC feature. He went there in 2013 with a portable gas analyzer to figure out what was actually going on.
And he found the breath of Cerberus.
He did. It's carbon dioxide.
Just CO2, the stuff we breathe out every day.
The very same. But the dose makes the poison. Normal air is about 0.04% CO2. Fans found that inside that shrine, the levels hit 80%.
80? Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, for context, 10% CO2 will kill you in about 30 minutes. 80% it's like being hit by a truck. It's immediate asphyxiation.
So the fault line is just leaking pure volcanic gas into this little cave.
Exactly.
Okay, so that explains the death part, but it doesn't explain the magic trick. How did the priests survive standing in an 80% death cloud?
This is where the science gets so brilliant. It all comes down to basic physics and timing. CO2 is heavier than air.
So it sinks.
Precisely. Fans discovered that during the day, the sun warms everything up and the wind blows, and the gas mostly dissipates. It's still dangerous, but maybe not instantly fatal.
But at night?
At night, and especially in the cool, calm air of early dawn, it's a different story.
The gas settles.
It pours out of that vent, and it pools on the floor of the arena. It creates what he called a lethal lake of invisible gas, maybe 40 centimeters deep.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. The bull.
A bull's nose is, 30, 40 centimeters off the ground? It's breathing pure poison.
And the priest is standing bolt upright.
His head is 1.5 meters, maybe 2 meters in the air. He's literally standing with his head above the lake of death, breathing the cleaner air on top.
That is incredible. The difference between life and death was literally how tall you were.
That or if you dropped your keys. I mean, if the priest bent down to tie his sandal, he would have died right alongside the bull.
Do you think they knew, did they understand the science of it, or did they really think it was divine favor?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The sources say the priests were very specific about doing the ritual in the early morning, so they might have just figured out through trial and error that the, quote, gods were angrier at dawn.
Or they knew it was a trick and used it to keep their power.
Could be. Either way, it turned Hierapolis into a major destination. You come for the magic show.
You stay for the hot springs.
Exactly. Which brings us to the city itself, Hierapolis. It means holy city.
Founded around the 2nd century BC, then the Romans took over. And looking at the architectural reports, this place wasn't just a city, it was a resort.
Oh, it was the ancient equivalent of a wellness retreat.
Yeah.
Or maybe more like a hospital. You have to remember, in the ancient world, if you had rheumatism or skin problems, you went to a thermal spring.
And Hierapolis had the best water around.
The whole city was designed around it.
Yeah.
The reports talk about 3 massive Roman bath complexes. And an interesting detail, hygiene was mandatory. You literally could not enter the city proper until you'd washed at the baths outside the main gates.
Talk about a border policy. Wash your hands or turn around.
It makes perfect sense if you think of the city as a kind of hospital. You don't want new arrivals bringing in new plagues.
One of the baths is still usable, right? The antique pool.
Yes, people call it Cleopatra's Pool, though there's zero evidence she was ever there. But it is spectacular. You can swim in this warm, bubbly water that feels like champagne.
But the coolest part isn't the water, it's what's in the water.
Right. Later in the city's history, during a massive earthquake, the marble columns from the temple next to it all collapsed into the pool.
And no one ever bothered to fish them out.
Nope. So today, you are literally swimming over 2,000-year-old fluted marble columns.
That vlog transcript we have from Safae Emre Tungus, he has a funny moment there. He's asking people if the water really works.
The whole doesn't make you 10 years younger thing.
Right. And he talks to this woman and she just jokes, 10 years warranty. But, there's a dark side to this whole wellness reputation.
There is.
Because if you are the medical capital of the ancient world who comes to visit you.
The sick. The very, very sick.
And ancient medicine being what it was, a lot of them never left.
Which creates this incredible paradox. Hierapolis is famous for healing, but it's surrounded by one of the largest graveyards in all of Turkey, the Necropolis.
City of the dead. It stretches for kilometers.
Over 1,200 graves excavated so far, and they've barely scratched the surface. And you can see a whole timeline of death, really. Different sections for different eras, different social classes.
I have to share this fact about the word sarcophagus because this just blew my mind. I've used that word my whole life to mean, a fancy stone coffin.
But the real meaning is much more gruesome.
The source points out that sarcophagus comes from the Greek sarx for flesh and phaging to eat. It literally means flesh eater.
It sounds like a monster from a horror movie.
Right. So why would you name a coffin that?
Well, it was a misunderstanding of biology. The limestone in that region is really porous. So when they put a body inside one of these limestone coffins, the moisture would get wicked away very quickly and decomposition was rapid.
So they'd open the grave a few years later to put another family member in.
And they'd just find clean bones, no flesh. So to the ancient mind, the logical conclusion was that the stone itself had eaten the body.
That is just so horrifying and practical all at once.
That's the Romans for you.
The necropolis also has these other details, like a carving of Medusa on the city gate that connects directly to modern Turkey.
The evil eye.
Right. The carving of Medusa was meant to ward off evil spirits.
Which is the direct ancestor of the Nizar Bankuas, that little blue glass eye bead you see in every taxi and home in Turkey today.
Yeah.
It's the same superstition 2,000 years later.
Speaking of superstition, the people of Hierapolis clearly liked to push their luck. I mean, they lived on a fault line, they played with deadly gas, and for fun, they went to the theater to watch people fight animals.
And the theater there is a beast. It's incredibly well preserved. It could hold about 19,500 people.
Which archaeologists use to estimate the total population, right?
Roughly. The rule of thumb is the theater holds about 10% of the population. So Hierapolis was probably pushing 100,000 residents at its peak.
A major metropolis.
Oh, yeah. And the architectural reports point out a little safety feature in the theater that gives away what kind of shows they were watching.
A high wall.
The high wall. There's about a 1-meter drop and a fence between the front row seats and the stage floor.
You don't build that for a poetry reading.
No. You build that because you have lions, bears, and gladiators down there, and you don't want a tiger jumping into a senator's lap.
It's so vivid, isn't it? You can just imagine the noise. 100,000 people living and bathing and dying and cheering in this white city on a hill.
But, like all things built on a fault line, it couldn't last forever.
The geological bargain eventually came due.
It did. The city was just hammered by earthquakes repeatedly. 17 AD, a massive one in 60 AD, after which they rebuilt it in that Roman grid style we see today, then again in the 7th century.
And eventually the earth just won.
A huge quake in the 14th century was the final straw. The city was abandoned, the roofs collapsed, the columns fell, and nature just started to reclaim it.
It went to sleep until we woke it up again.
Which brings us to the modern problem.
Yeah, this was the part of the research that felt the most urgent. That academic study on visitor carrying capacity.
It's a concept that basically every major tourist site in the world is grappling with right now. From Venice to Machu Picchu.
Can you break it down for us? What is carrying capacity?
In simple terms, it's asking, how many people can a place handle before it breaks? And the study divides it into 2 main types. First, physical carrying capacity.
Okay.
Can the ground literally support the number of feet? Is there enough space for people to stand without falling off a cliff? That sort of thing.
And the second type?
Social carrying capacity. And this is more subjective, but it's just as important. It asks, at what point does the crowd itself ruin the experience?
I see.
If you go to a natural wonder, but you're elbow to elbow with 5,000 other people holding selfie sticks, is it still a wonder?
And the study had some pretty harsh numbers on this for Hierapolis.
It did. It suggested that the site is currently operating at double its social carrying capacity. Yeah. Which means, for the average visitor, the quality of their experience is significantly degraded just because of the sheer volume of other people there.
And you can see this feedback loop, right? We have documentaries like that Mysteries of the Abandoned series that do an amazing job highlighting the history. So I watch it, I get excited, I book a ticket.
And by going, we risk damaging the very thing we came to see, especially the delicate travertine terraces. They're soft when they first form, right?
Like a jelly.
Exactly. If you step on that, you ruin the formation forever. That's why they have to restrict access to certain pools and rotate which areas are open to let them heal and turn white again.
So Hierapolis is always struggling with this balance. In the past, it was the healing water versus the deadly gas. Today, it's sharing the beauty versus destroying it with our own feet.
That's the perfect way to frame it. It's a site that demands respect. You can't just consume it, you have to steward it.
So if I'm standing there today, probably waiting in the line, dodging an influencer, what should I be thinking about?
I think you should look at the bricked-up entrance to the Plutonium.
It is bricked up now for safety reasons.
Right. But there's a little walkway where you can look in. And I think that's the most profound spot in the whole place. 2,000 years ago, a person stood there and saw a god. They saw divine mystery. They felt genuine fear.
Today, we stand in that same spot and we see a geological vent.